Okay, everybody, thank you for having us. I'll just start off here. First Phosphate. We are a company that's listed on the Canadian Securities Exchange and also on the Frankfurt Exchange. We are a phosphate for the lithium iron phosphate battery industry. Lithium iron phosphate batteries are similar to nickel, manganese, and cobalt batteries, NMC batteries. They're a form of lithium ion battery. Just to use iron and phosphate instead of nickel, manganese, and cobalt in the cathode, but they use lithium as well, sometimes a lot less lithium, sometimes up to 50% less lithium. So I'll start off now and I'll just let you know a little bit about the company. First Phosphate is the only company worldwide that is fully dedicated to extracting and purifying phosphate for the lithium iron phosphate battery industry. We plan to employ a prudent partnership model to vertically integrate from mine source all the way directly to the production of LFP cathode active material. We have 1,500 square kilometers of claims. They're all royalty free. They're in the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean region of Quebec. That's just 2 hours north of Quebec City. And our claims generally hold phosphate that is, the purest in the world, and it's devoid of heavy concentrations of harmful elements such as sulfur and heavy metals, cadmium, uranium, and thorium. So, our belief is that, it really all starts with the highest purity form of phosphate when making LFP cathode active material. To give you a little bit of background, 95% of the world's phosphate, and what you can find here in the red dots, is really phosphate that is sedimentary deposit. That's old seabeds that has kind of accumulated over the millennia. That is a good phosphate for making fertilizer. 90% of that becomes fertilizer, and only 10% of that can become purified phosphoric acid given the levels of impurity. However, when we're looking for high purity, we move to the igneous rocks, which is hard rock, which is more of a lava rock. We found some of that, the carbonatites in Northern Europe. We find carbonatites also in Africa and also in Brazil. The carbonatites are generally much more pure than the sedimentary deposits, but they can have rare earth deposits associated with them, such as the ones in Brazil, which are used for fertilizer. Many of the ones in Africa are inaccessible. And then right now in Europe, it's just 2 small mines that are operating carbonatites and exporting in Russia, which are now subject to sanctions. In terms of anorthosites, which are the purest form of phosphate found in the world, we find that those are really only accessible here in the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean region of Quebec. That's where First Phosphate has gone up and locked up a whole entire district of this, with eyes on the battery. The reason this is so important is because 90% of this phosphate can be converted into purified phosphoric acid for the battery. This means that we can have a mine size that's, almost 1/10 of the size of a sedimentary mine. And we do not have to be at all focused on fertilizer. We don't care about fertilizer at all. We are 100% focused on the LFP battery industry. We're 100% focused on the downstream client. And that's a success factor we think it takes in terms of a focus in order to succeed in this business, because if you're selling fertilizer, you've got a lot of already problems just selling fertilizer, let alone having to focus on the high intensity needs of a technology client. So lithium iron phosphate batteries, let's just talk about these for a second. These batteries operate similar to other lithium ion batteries. They have the advantage of being non-toxic. They have superior fire safety, which is very important, and they have a longer life and a lower cost. You see that all the vehicle manufacturers in North America, Europe, and Asia have started moving to the LFP battery in a massive way. Our real reasons to be, and the real reasons that you should own a First Phosphate stock, is we have the geographic advantage. Again, we're within North America in the Inflation Reduction Act area. We are the right type of igneous rock phosphate. We can create a lot of purified phosphoric acid. We can create it in a very clean way in fully recyclable ESG fashion. And this leads to a very high environmentally desired LFP cathode active material that can be shipped across North America. When we look at the lithium iron phosphate battery opportunity in North America, this is a market that is 10 billion. It's going to 50 billion by 2028. LFP batteries now represent over 50% of all battery chemistries out there worldwide, but over 90% of these are made in China, and we need to onshore these immediately in North America and Europe. However, there's a problem. North American battery-grade phosphate does not exist because North American phosphate mines are depleting. Existing reserves are at capacity for fertilizer, and existing sedimentary mines cannot produce enough purified phosphoric acid. I know we have a lot of European viewers on this call. Europe's situation is even in greater peril because there is no phosphate right now that is produced in Europe outside of a small mine that operates in northern Finland for fertilizer. So the problems are the same for North America and Europe in terms of sourcing phosphate and high purity igneous rock-based phosphate for making battery. So what we are proposing here in the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean Valley of Quebec is to create the LFP Battery Valley of North America, where we would extract the high purity phosphate, create purified phosphoric acid, and then be able to ship products, LFP cathode active material, across the North American continent and possibly even to Europe one day. This is something that we've gone about through partnership. We have a partnership with the Port of Saguenay. All of our deposits are about maximum 140 kilometers from the deep sea port of Saguenay. The deep sea port of Saguenay is still one of the virgin ports in the industrial Western world. There is up to 700 acres of open land. The Quebec government has recently committed to making this the second battery valley of Quebec after Bécancour, because Bécancour is now full. And they've committed $105 million in terms of upgrading the services at the port. Our second partnership is with Prayon. You might know Prayon, those who are in Europe. It's the largest producer of purified phosphoric acid out of Belgium. They have the best technology for making purified phosphoric acid. They practically invented purified phosphoric acid in the 1950s and 1960s. We have an agreement with Prayon that allows us to send phosphate concentrate from our mine directly to Prayon as an offtake agreement. And also we have an agreement in place with them to create purified phosphoric acid for us and to transfer their technology to us one day to make purified phosphoric acid right in Saguenay, Quebec. Lastly, Prayon has experience in making LFP cathode active material in Europe and in Asia, and would like to look at making LFP cathode active material together with us in North America. So very, very strong partners, and proven providers. And we're going to have manageable mine size. We're going to be focusing all our CapEx on value add. And we have important secondary recoveries of titanium, iron, and iron sulfate, which also are important for battery material making and LFP battery making. All these materials are in situ, and we have a rare opportunity to go from mine all the way to LFP cathode active material with very strong partners. This is very important. This is, kind of the projections of the market. And again, this is only for EVs. It's the small EV section of the market. We're not talking trucks. We're not talking small commercial vehicles, although Tesla's now moved all its small commercial vehicles to LFP. We're not talking, energy storage off of hydro dams, wind farms, solar farms. All of that needs LFP battery. We're not talking about small mobility. We're not talking about, medical devices or any other form of battery that would take the LFP battery. We believe that these projections could actually be 5 to 10 times what we're showing you here, but we're being extremely conservative. And being extremely conservative, there would be the requirement for 700,000 tons of LFP cathode active material in North America. That could be similar amount in Europe. That would be a business turnover of 18 billion US dollars. Right now, so far spoken for is only 35,000 tons, about 5% of that through a subsidy program with the Department of Energy in the United States. First Phosphate is only trying to capture maybe 10% of that market, and that would already be a $2 billion turnover. And we are the most well-placed company, I believe, in the world to be able to capture this business to come, because we're situated right where the raw materials are. What I showed you there was just this little tranche here. All these other tranches could also be, sectors for LFP battery. We believe that there will be no shortage of buyers for LFP cathode active material, especially as raw material supplies and other battery chemistries become tighter and tighter. And the largest limitation on LFP will be the supply of purified phosphoric acid, which is what we're solving for every day. This is how we see the ecosystem for LFP battery developing in North America. As we said before, all of these batteries are currently made in China. We see ourselves in extraction and concentration. This is where we want to be focused. We take the phosphate out of the ground at between 5 and 10%. We concentrate it to 40.2%, which is the highest, very close to the highest theoretical purity of 42% that can be found inside of apatite, and it's the highest produced concentration of phosphate in the world. After we do that, we then work with Prayon to create purified phosphoric acid, and from there, we work with other partners to create LFP cathode active material. Once you have the LFP cathode active material, to me, this is the powder gold of the industry. This can then go into the battery cells, and the battery cells go into the EVs, and so on and so forth. You might have heard some talk recently about the CATL, Chinese company trying to partner with Ford and Tesla to make battery cells and battery packs. There was a lot of backlash from the US Senate, but no one ever talked about the LFP cathode active material. It was always assumed that that just comes from somewhere. Well, right now it comes from China. So we feel that producing this in North America, for North America and for Europe, really solves all these issues. and allows the supply chain to come back to the Western world. This is our mine. Our mine is here, our mine site, I should say, is here at 140 kilometers from the deep sea port of Saguenay. This is Lac Lorignal. Lac Lorignal is already in 43101. It's now being moved into a PEA. We hope to have the PEA ready by the end of this year, and then to move into feasibility study by 2024. We are 140 kilometers from the deep sea port along mining and logging roads. These logging roads are cleared 365 days a year. We're right by the logging road. It's a 2.5-hour drive to the port by truck with regular trucks, regular 52-ton trucks. Then from the deep sea port, we can get out to our partners in Belgium 365 days a year without locks. This is an industrial area. It knows aluminum. This is aluminum valley of the world through Alcan Aluminum and Rio Tinto. And it's also logging area. So it's a very industrial and very beautiful area of the world. And people here know how to live with industry and society all in one. There's an amazing workforce. And we have, we're blessed with, cheap Quebec green hydro right here near the property line as well. It's 49 million tons of phosphate in the ground. We can recover, up to 91% of the phosphate. We've already done the metallurgy around that. We have strong secondary recoveries of iron and titanium, which we're working on as well. We're at surface, and there's a lot more drilling that can be done to expand the resource. Not only did we have Lac Lorignal, but we also locked up all the land in this whole area. Like I said, we locked up the entire district of phosphate in the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean area within 200, 250 kilometers of the deep sea port of Saguenay. We started doing surface sampling. We found the highest grades in this area here. We're very fortunate here at Bégin-La-Marche. We found the highest grades ever found in the area, about almost 8% phosphate. And, this is right on, almost paved highway right to 5 kilometers from the site in a very, logging friendly industrial area, very well supported by the two municipalities and also the indigenous group. So we're really looking forward to Bégin-La-Marche. We think phosphate takes two things. It needs definitely high grades, but it also needs access to infrastructure. If you're not near infrastructure and you don't have a mine size that's feasible, you're not going anywhere regardless of your grade. But here at Bégin-La-Marche, we've got both, which is great, and also at Lac Lorignal, all within 140 kilometers of the deep sea port of Saguenay. In terms of our catalysts going forward here, right now we're creating our phosphate concentration pilot plant. We're creating a 1,000 kilogram sample to be sent to Prayon to create purified phosphoric acid. And after that purified phosphoric acid is created, we're sending it to another partner of ours in the UK to create some LFP cathode active material for us. So at that point, we will basically have completed the whole theoretical process from mine all the way to the creation of LFP cathode active material. We're also continuing drilling at the Bégin-La-Marche property, which I just showed you, and we're hoping to put that into 43101 by early 2024. Our dream and our expectation is to have a number of smaller deposits, very close to infrastructure, very feasible, that could give us several decades, if not hundreds of years of phosphate. We're building a company for the future here, and we're going to continue to work on our blue sky properties that I showed you as well, and start to develop those in the coming months as well. And our PEA at Lac Lorignal, followed by feasibility study, is ongoing as well. The other thing that we're working on is obviously the development of our titanium and iron recoveries that come freely from the processing of phosphate. So we got a lot on the go and a lot of catalysts up and coming. We've assembled a world-class board and management team. We have major North American and European partners on board. We're going after manageable mine size, focusing on CapEx, important secondary recoveries, in situ management of materials, and a rare opportunity to go from mine all the way to LFP cathode active material with very established partners. And we have, a very large blue sky opportunity here, having locked up all the known showings of phosphate in the area. This is our company right now. We're trading about 50 cents a share on the Canadian Securities Exchange, $26 million market cap. When you look at what I've told you that, one day this could be a $2 billion turnover business, it's going to take time. And you look at our market cap now, it's certainly a good opportunity to own the security. We feel, yes, we are early, but we feel that, with what is going on in the background here, you could wake up one day and you're going to really be sorry that you don't own the shares, because anything could happen at any day. Right now, we have a very tight structure. 70% of the shares are owned by management and board, and 30% are owned by VIP investors. This is me. I'm more of a technology and capital markets guy. I've got really strong support on the mining side, but I'm really focused downstream on the technology client and fulfilling the needs of this industry. I look at phosphate, not even as a commodity, not as fertilizer. I really look at it as technological material. So I'm out here to build technological material for the LFP battery industry. Peter Kent is a former Minister of the Environment for Canada. He keeps us on the straight and narrow as far as ESG standards. And he's also, a distinguished speaker and former anchorman on some of the largest television channels here in Canada. So he's a great spokesperson for the company. Now, I've pretty much finished the company side of the presentation. What I want to do here before I open it up to questions, I want to give everybody a really good understanding of the world of phosphate and purification of phosphate and what we're up against and what we're doing for that. So first off, to start, we have people telling us that there is peak phosphate, and other people are telling us that there isn't peak phosphate, and they're actually both right. If you look at all the other countries in the world that aren't Morocco, yes, we've hit peak phosphate, and it is a big problem. There's no more than 10 to 30 years of phosphate left in any one of these countries. And then, if you look at Morocco, there's, hundreds of years of phosphate left. So Morocco is quickly developing sort of, this the strong hand, sort of almost like what Saudi Arabia is to OPEC in terms of the phosphate world. Morocco exports everything to Europe. Europe's fully dependent on Moroccan phosphate. North America is becoming more and more dependent. South America is dependent. India basically starves without Moroccan phosphate. And now even China is starting to take in phosphate from Morocco because they have very low grades and they're struggling with fertilizer, population growth, and this LFP battery need. What I like most about phosphate is that it's got a really strong component of agriculture behind it. Agriculture still really drives the price of phosphate, and it's going to be like that forever. This is very different than lithium and graphite. Whenever there's a little hiccup in the battery markets, lithium and graphite, they drop. If you look at lithium during this time period, it dropped off, more than 50% during the little recession. Phosphate came off 5%, phosphate rocket, now boom, it's up another 15, 20%. And that's because the fundamental demand is behind it in agriculture. So what I like about that is that, regardless of what happens in the battery space, we've always got a backdoor in agriculture, and a very promising backdoor at that. If you look at this is the amount of phosphate that we've used since the 1960s up until now to sort of grow global population. And this is the amount of phosphate that we need to 2100 just to, not starve, basically, to say it bluntly. And, as I was saying earlier, rock phosphate, especially in North America here, it's decreasing. Mine life is depleting, and Europe basically has none of it left either. Again, we went over this already. There's going to be a need for a lot more phosphate because of what is going on here, in the LFP battery. But it's not just small cars; it's also, major commercial transportation. In fact, all the commercial transportation in China runs on LFP now. Even all the 6G towers run on it. And there's large-scale energy storage requirements as well that are much larger even than EVs that will all run on LFP. So what we've got here is we've got really the battery of mass adoption in terms of LFP for commercial for standard EVs. You'll see that Tesla and Ford are now fighting price wars based on LFP. Whenever one of them adopts LFP, boom, they drop the price immediately on their cars by $5,000 or $10,000. And that's what's really driving mass adoption. It's driving mass adoption because it's non-toxic. The superior fire safety is very important. The longer life, low degradation, they can put a warranty on it. And also above all, the cost, right? This is the cost of NMC cathode active material. And this is the cost of LFP cathode active material, much lower, 50 to 60% lower in many cases. So, they were predicting that LFP battery by 2030 would be 50% of the battery chemistries. Already right now, 2023, we're at 50% and going higher. And they're starting to put a little bit of manganese in the LFP too. So it's starting to really chop away at the NMC. So look for that as a trend in the future here. And there's only one company in the world that's fully focused on, phosphate and the LFP battery, and that's First Phosphate. How many companies are there out there in lithium, cobalt, manganese, and nickel? Problem with most of these batteries, the LFP batteries, just like all the other batteries, are all made in China. So we have to really onshore this to North America very quickly. We gave a study to the University of Queens to look at our deposit to see, if it was manageable for LFP battery. They did a full study, and they said yes. The low abundance of sulfur and of radioactive materials makes this a highly compliant deposit that could function on the ESG scale. This is very important because there are no ESG scale mines for phosphate in the world. And further, what the professor is saying here is that there's requirement for this phosphate that doesn't compete with food that's found within North America, and that can create a large amount of purified phosphoric acid. And that's what we have here with our deposits at La Caloriñao. This is very important. This is the supply of phosphoric acid in North America. Basically, purified phosphoric acid and merchant grade phosphoric acid, which is for fertilizer, has been in decline for over 20 years. But with the LFP battery, we're going to need a lot more. And again, this is based on the conservative projections. I believe these numbers to be 5 or 10 times larger. So you can imagine what's going to happen. I would encourage everybody to go onto our website on the homepage and read this article written by Yves Caprara, the former CEO of Prayon in Belgium, who speaks to these supply shortages and how, purified phosphoric acid is probably going to go, astronomical, like a hockey stick, just like lithium in the coming years. And it has already started, in fact. The reason for this is, 80% of the world's phosphate goes into, a very quick merchant grade phosphoric acid for fertilizer, and then another 10% for animal feeds. But in the higher purity, where you have to do a second and almost a third or fourth transformation of phosphate into purified phosphoric acid, that's only 10% of the uses. That's for food like Coca-Cola, electronics, LFP battery, industrial, pharma, water, fire safety. That's where the real pinch point is going to be, because there's just not enough capacity coming online. And that's what First Phosphate is focused on day in and day out to be able to get to these capacity numbers required. And we think it's a tremendous horizon for the company. This is really important. I'd like everybody to really focus on this. These are the ways to purify phosphate. There's 2 ways to purify phosphate. One is through what's called the thermal process, and the other one is what is called the wet process with sulfuric acid. The thermal process is not really practiced anywhere in the world outside of China, for the simple reason that it's too environmentally polluting. Basically, you take low-grade phosphate ores like they have in China, you put them through these big blast furnaces with lots of carbon, creates lots of CO2. It cracks the phosphate, creates a lot of environmental pollution, and creates a large amount of purified phosphoric acid. This is the phosphoric acid that's currently going into the batteries that come into Europe and to North America, and people drive these cars around thinking that they're solving a problem, when in fact it'd be better to stay on a fossil fuel car than to move to batteries that are produced in this method. Anyhow, eventually, when these batteries come to North America, we're going to have to create purified phosphoric acid in a way that's it's acceptable by environmental standards. Currently, the way to process phosphate is with sulfuric acid, and with sedimentary rock. When you attack sedimentary rock with sulfuric acid, you get large gypsum slag piles, which I'll show you in a second, a small amount of purified phosphoric acid, and a large amount of fertilizer-grade phosphoric acid. So this is not really acceptable for the battery because it doesn't create enough of it, and there's also a little bit of an environmental issue. However, when we take the Prayon process, we take igneous rock from First Phosphate, we create a lot of purified phosphoric acid. 90% of the feedstock turns into purified phosphoric acid, and we don't have, and the gypsum is easily recyclable. So this is what happens, in places like Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, with these large gypsum slag piles that have all the gypsum in them. These dikes, they break, the liners break. All of this gets washed back into the Gulf of Mexico with the hurricanes and all that. And it's a big environmental problem. There's lots of lawsuits around it, and there's lots of groundwater issues. But with the Prayon process and igneous rock, the plaster can be fully recycled. It's recycled by one of the largest German producers of plaster in the world. So anyways, I'm just at time here. So I'm just going to stop here and, and I'll open to questions.
All right. Well, great presentation, John. So first of all, we have 2 questions, and the name of the participant is Phosphate Investor. So I guess it's an interested party in your presentation for sure. One of the questions he's asking is, you mentioned $2 billion potential for FLP cathode material. Is this your maximum expected output, or could you potentially produce more?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we come back to this slide, like we said, there's 700,000 tons just required just for small EVs, just in North America. We believe this number to be 5 or 10 times the amount when you factor in all the other EV categories, all the other categories of energy storage, et cetera, et cetera. But let's take that really base example there. With this, that would be, almost an $18 billion turnover. We're being very conservative. We'll say we'll capture 10%. We certainly have, all of the resources at the Port of Saguenay, 700 hectares of land open, an excellent partnership with the world's leader in purified phosphoric acid. There's no mystery there. We know the technology works. So we could go much bigger. We could go much, much bigger. But, I have to start off very conservatively, ensure that, our idea is to get in there, prove it out. And once we can prove it out on a small scale, just continue to grow. And we see this as a massive industry of the future. Like, we're here to build the monster, but we have to be conservative too. We can't just have our heads up in the sky. We have to build every day, prove out small, and go from there. But yes, it's a massive potential. It's incalculable what's out there. Everyone that I talk to more and more every day are saying the same thing.
Great answer. And then he's also asking, what are the profit margins for vertically integrated company like for phosphate? I guess he's speaking once once you would be in production. Yeah,
so that's a great question. So it's quite massive, right? Once you take phosphate rock out of the ground and you concentrate it, Moroccan rock phosphate at 30% trades at $345 US a ton. We're a much higher purity, so we'd probably be trading around. If you take 435 times 1.33, 345 times 1.33, that could be worth $450 to $460 US a ton. Once you get into purified phosphoric acid, that's now worth about $3,000 to $3,500 USD a ton. And once you get into LFP cathode active material, that's worth $25,000 a ton. Obviously, there's costs all along the way, but the real important thing is supply chain control. And if you look at the fertilizer companies like Nutrien, they control everything from the extraction of phosphate, potassium, and potash, all the way to the creation of a bag of fertilizer. So we're looking to do the same in the LFP cathode active material space. And yes, there's strong profit margins all the way along, but they get stronger and stronger as you get to LFP, with LFP being really the holy grail.
Great. Another question is, Preon is owned partially by OCP Group. They are the largest phosphate reserves owner in the world. What does it mean for you that they want your rock and committed as they did?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, Preon it was restructured in about the 1960s or 1970s. It was bought from, I believe, private hands, and 50% was taken up by the Belgian government, and the other 50% was taken up by OCP. So, two great, very strong partners there. What ends up happening in in Europe is that these gypsum slag piles, like we talked about down here, they have been outlawed in Europe. There's strong taxes and disincentives against them. So the Preon facilities in Europe need to use igneous rock, and they cannot use the rock from Morocco to process the purified phosphoric acid, because they cannot create these gypsum slag piles. So that's why the igneous rock is very important for Preon for this side of production of purified phosphoric acid. In fact, if you're looking to do purified phosphoric acid, I believe the igneous rock is the only choice for many reasons, especially the ESG side of it, and the fact that 90% goes to purified phosphoric acid, and sedimentary rock is more the choice for fertilizer based applications.
Awesome. Listen, John, just one thing. We have about a minute left. We're out of question, but maybe one from me. If you could go back to your slides of what you're doing every month, of basically deliverables. Yeah, milestones. There you go. Searching for the world. I want to put it in phases on have any of those tasks in 2022, 2023, or Q2 2023, have any of those been delayed or so on? And can investors expect the same kind of rigorous meeting of those milestones quarter on quarter in the future?
Yeah, no, very good question, Julian. So yeah, we're ahead of schedule. We are 3 to 6 to 9 months ahead of schedule in some cases. Phosphate concentration plant is very much on schedule. We continue to drill at Beijing La Marche. That's on schedule. There should be some results out here very shortly. Blue Sky property, that this will be done in May now that the snow has lifted. The PEA is very much on track for Q4 of this year. Purified phosphoric acid testing is a function of the concentrate plant, which is on schedule. So all that should be on schedule for Q4. We're starting on these studies here to upgrade titanium and iron. So I would say we're very much on schedule. Obviously, don't want to jinx myself, but given everything that's going on out there, I think we're doing pretty good.
Okay, perfect. Well, this is great for sure to hear. Listen, that was the presentation from John Passalacqua from First Phosphate. Obviously, when you deliver on milestones, when you have shares and skin in the game, your interest aligns with the one of shareholders. So please have a look. If you have more information, write John directly. It will be a pleasure for him to answer. John, thank you very much again for the great presentation.
Thank you, Julian. All the best. Look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.